sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. My name is Virginia Jones. I am a working stand-up comedian. My sister's a therapist. Here she is.
Hello, I'm Laura Ryan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, but my main credit is sister to Quip Queen, Virginia Jones.
That's nice. That sounds like a 50s house cleaning tool. Quip Queen.
You know my sister. She's a Quip Queen.
Oh, that Quip Queen? For the new listener, the format of this podcast is each of us picks a topic and the other one never knows what the topic is. So one of us is researching and one of us is just sliding by, just
chilling hard.
Oh, what's this? A topic? This week it happens to be Laura Ryan's topic. Laura, what are we talking about today?
We have an idea from a listener, so I'm going to read you their email. Hey, ladies, I was just listening to your episode about cluster bees. I think my guy is a covert narcissist. He really resembles my mom, who was completely exhausting for me. It wasn't obvious at the onset, but after almost 3 years, I am drained and trying to figure out if it will get better with therapy, if it's worth it. Can I actually have a healthy relationship with this guy, or should I cut my losses? I've finally been freed from my kid's father, who was an overt narcissist. My son decided he wanted to go no contact because of the abuse. Now he's bonded with my current partner. It's a sticky wicket. He actually brings a lot to the table, but when stuff gets dramatic, which is relatively often, I want to peace out. The old Clash song, Should I Stay or Should I Go, feels like a real conundrum for me. I would love it if you expounded on this topic. Thanks, dears. Sincerely, Carrie Fairchild.
Thanks, Carrie. This is a great topic and one that Laura has a lot to say about, I think, and I'm excited to hear her take on it. I will say that one thing I do know is that the reason you keep winding up with these narcs is because your mom was a narc. It's not a coincidence. You are attracted to this personality disorder because of your previous experiences, even though it's crappy and it feels bad, it's familiar to you. And also, you're 100% right. If you're with a covert narc, everything's going to be dramatic, high drama all the time.
And if you want to learn more about that, you should refer back to our Lego My Imago episode, where we talk about how we choose our partners based on our family of origin and our trauma. And what we're trying to do when we pick a partner is we're trying to heal the trauma with our parents.
We're trying to cover up our bad experience, equalize it with a good experience. I don't know how successful we are.
I don't think we're ever successful. If you have a partner who's malleable and has some traits that your difficult parents had, but not all, it could work.
What Therapy Jeff says, my other favorite therapist, is that not only are you attracted to this person with this personality trait, but you have to be with them to grow. This is a person you need on some level. That's how your relationship is going to help you grow as a person if you are challenged in the same way that your parents challenged you.
I think that we all grow more through relationship. You don't have a conduit for healing some of this trauma if you're not in a relationship. One thing I learned from my narcissistic exes, the many that I have, is sometimes it's just about learning how to walk away and not trying to work with it. Have you heard of the book Too Good to Leave, Too Bad to Stay by Mira Kirschenbaum?
I have. I believe that this is one of the books you sent me on my Kindle.
Oh, yeah. When I was trying to get you to leave your partner.
Yes. Although I appreciated the sentiment, it was also, I felt very challenged. And I guess I thought, what if he sees me reading this? So I have read that. It is, as our listener says, a sticky wicket. And it's an answer that no one else can give you, really.
I read Too Good to Leave, Too Bad to Stay when I was in a terrible marriage. And my solve for it was I put a dust cover on it for a book that my husband would never ask me about.
Was it How to Be a Good Partner and Super Helpful and Lovable?
No, it was about women healing their relationship with food.
Oh, you're right. That's a good one.
If you can find this book and put a dust jacket on it of a book that your partner would never want to read, that's a good song.
Maybe a romance novel having to do with like mermen, just something he wouldn't be into.
What I'm hearing from Carrie is that there's a lot of ambivalence here. So here's a quote from Too Good to Leave, Too Bad to Stay.
We all feel doubts about our partner from time to time, and we all occasionally speculate about what it would be like to live on our own or live with a different person. But that's not relationship ambivalence. I'm talking instead about what happens when the bulk of your attention shifts from being in your relationship to trying to figure out whether to stay in it or leave. This shift can take place at any time from soon after you meet to the day after your 25th anniversary or even later. Before that shift, there's a taken for granted quality to your thinking about the relationship. Even if from time to time you get upset about things, then one too many things go wrong, new problems appear, bad qualities in the other person or in the relationship get worse while good qualities dwindle or get lost. You find yourself complaining about things like he's made a million agreements about doing his share of the housework and he's never kept one of them. She had this affair with a guy from work and I really think it's been over for a year, but I'm having so much trouble letting go of the whole thing and I don't know what to do about it.
Ambivalence. It's tricky because you're starting to do this thing of weighing it out, having tick boxes on either side.
It can feel too sciencey and judgy to make lists and tick boxes.
And the truth is that it's not really sciencey because you're not putting in any of your own stuff that you're doing wrong. You're only putting their stuff in.
Because every person is like, well, I've been perfect. These are all the things that they need to solve about them. And also, if we go back to the Adlerian model, your list is going to reflect your true desire. If you want to stay, you will find things to put on the list to motivate you to stay. And if you want to go, you will make a list that motivates you to go.
You won't be making the list if you want to stay, but you might not have the courage to leave. So you'll find things that quote unquote make it okay for you to stay. If anyone wants to refer back to our Adlerian psychology episode, that's a good one too.
It's a topic I return to again and again.
This is one that I return to again and again because I find myself working with people a lot of the time who are in this situation where the writing seems to be on the wall. I'm in pre-contemplation and I'm not quite ready to make that move, but I'm trying to figure out what to do. I like this book because the idea is that not every crime is equal.
Right.
Some things count for more. The way that the author describes it, she talks about this idea that if I'm working in the ER and my patient's brain is working fine and his heart is beating perfectly, but his lungs don't work, he's still going to die.
You got to have all of it.
So she focuses on the most essential parts of the relationship that would lead it to either be successful or fail. This is what she says about ambivalence. This probably sounds like a Seinfeld episode, but he's a noisy breather. I mean, every breath in and every out is like sighing or moaning. He sounds like Darth Vader when he breathes. So by yourself, you do what opposing lawyers do at a trial, each lawyer piling up evidence on one side or the other. Then after acting as lawyer for both sides, you act as jury, looking to see which pile of evidence weighs more. It's instinctive, it's universal, and it's guaranteed to drive you crazy. Weighing the pros and cons of staying or leaving isn't like weighing a can of tomatoes against a box of cornflakes.
And also, what's weird about the snoring thing, and I think it's a pretty common complaint, is that it didn't bother you when you were madly in love. It didn't bother you when you were new in the relationship. Other things are aggravating you. And so this is aggravating you. I saw a very important TikTok from Trixie Mattel and Katya yesterday. Katya was talking about how she never wants a man to sleep over, ever. She doesn't want to live with a partner, ever. Trixie's like, well, you don't like cuddling? And she was like, everybody snores, mama. Everybody snores. Get out. And I think everybody does snore. But of course, sometimes it's medical. If you're annoyed by your partner snoring, just know that they've also been annoyed by your snoring.
She's talking about just breathing. The way that he breathes.
Oh. I immediately went to snoring because of our experience with our father.
Right. I have noticed that too. When people are not in a good spot, they start picking random things to get upset about.
And that's a big avoidant trait too. When I have decided that the relationship's over for whatever reason, my radar is up for things that they're doing wrong, things that they do that annoy me, traits that I don't find cute. You become extra sensitive to those traits.
You become fixated on them.
Yeah. When you're talking about pre-contemplation, you can know intellectually that the relationship is not working, that you're not happy, that it can't be fixed. That doesn't mean you're ready to go and that that's okay. I've definitely been in relationships where you've told me you will go, I just don't know when, and you should go now. And I said, well, I'm not ready and I'll do it when I'm ready. And then one day I was.
We talked about this before, but I have this tendency to sort of wait until there's absolutely nothing left. All the joy.
Really squeeze all the juice out of the orange.
Out. Right. You're really into the orange analogy lately. I wait until it's a husk of itself. Every day is drudgery and I can't stand to be around this person. That's when I leave.
When you get to that point and you say it's time to leave, you can just shake it off like an old overcoat. Oh, I don't even know why I was wearing that.
Because I've been breaking up with you silently for months or years. In my case, I think it was years.
There's a conventional wisdom about men and women that it looks easier for women to have breakups because they've been emotionally preparing for it. By the time they give up on you, it's been dead in them for so long.
By the time they officially give up on you.
And men, of course, break up with you when they find someone else who wants to sleep with them.
I sent you another quote from the book.
It's like placing puppies on a teeter-totter, which you shouldn't do. Those puppies are going to fall off. Everything constantly moves and shifts. Nothing stays pinned down. You should not pin puppies to a teeter-totter. These are dangerous ideas. When it comes to relationships, the balanced scale approach is the problem, not the solution. It gets you into trouble, not out of it. How can you weigh the things you know about your relationship in the present against a huge uncertain future? How can you weigh a problem that's bad for you against the knowledge that a lot of people have this problem, but don't seem to be breaking up their relationships over it? How can you weigh a problem that makes you want to scream today against the possibility that it won't bother you so much tomorrow? You shouldn't try to count these beans. It's not helpful.
Because the puppies are going to be moving. When you're talking to other people about your relationship, I had this experience where I would complain about my husband and then be really shocked when people weren't happy when he was doing better. Because my puppies had moved.
Their puppies are in the same place. You had a lot of problems with your sisters and your puppies in that time.
Yeah, because I wanted them to have the same kind of adoration and love for my husband that I had, and they didn't.
We had been told some terrible things, and we both said individually and as a group, F that guy.
I think the difference is the reason the puppies move is that we had that beach vacation or we had that really funny night or we had a great dinner. Other people who are not in the relationship don't get to experience the good times. So all they're hearing is that one side.
And it is strange to think about your friend's perspective of your relationship. I wind up saying mostly the really good stuff. This was so much fun. He said this sweet thing. If you're a close friend, I'll tell you the really bad stuff. But there's a lot of stuff in the middle that gets lost. I just don't share because why would I? I do think you have to have all your puppies to tell where you're at.
And I think no one's going to understand the balance of the relationship like you do. I've had that experience a bunch of times as a therapist. A client will come in and every week tell me all the terrible things about someone. And then I'll suggest that they should leave that person. And they look at me like I'm crazy because they just went to Honolulu with him.
Right. We are all the heroes in our own stories. When we tell our therapist or our friends about our relationship and about the terrible things that our partner has done, it doesn't even occur to us to talk about how we're not always perfect. And that was something that took me a couple of years after my marriage to understand. Even though I had a lot of blame and negative feelings, I had not been great. When couples go into therapy, I think there's the temptation to just try to win who's the good one and who's the bad one. That's not actually helpful. And your therapist is not going to take sides because that's their job. But I think that people think of therapy as going to a tennis coach who's going to watch the games and take notes and say, well, you should be doing this better. You're the worst tennis player. You're the best tennis player. Here's your special tennis player.
From my perspective, what I find is that most people are going into therapy like angry children who are yelling at mommy to tell on their sibling. And you say, well, he started it and look at what he did. It feels very much like that. It's very immature and it's very silly. I do take sides at times, but ultimately what I try to explain to the couples are you're not my client and you're not my client. Your relationship is my client. I'm here to heal your relationship. Therefore, no one is going to be the right one and the wrong one. You're both wrong.
Right. You're both wrong or you wouldn't be here.
If one of you was constantly wrong and the other person was constantly right, they would just leave you.
Yeah.
Right.
People will tell it to you, but it's hard to understand. And it takes two to do almost every dance except for the twist. You are not only staying with someone who's doing behaviors that aggravate you, but you're also doing your own behaviors that aggravate them. No one is truly a good guy and a bad guy.
It's true. But I think when you start introducing elements of personality disorders, it does weigh out a little bit different. I'm going to read from Meredith Miller's article, When to Bury the Hope That the Narcissist Will Change. When they're not owning the responsibility of their actions, when they are unwilling to address them, to look at them, to work on them, there is no hope for change. None. And the sooner you bury the hope and mourn the idea of what you thought the relationship was, who you thought that person was, the future that you imagined and hoped for, the sooner you bury and mourn that, the better. Because that hope is toxic. That hope starts to pollute your life. That hope starts to make you feel like you're going insane because you're continually coming back for more abuse from the person who is never going to change. The only way a person is going to change is when they 100% accept responsibility for themselves. That is the only time that I would recommend having any hope, because hope can be so dangerous when people are not owning the responsibility for themselves.
That is some deep stuff. It's also making me think of people who get sent to you by a partner to quit smoking or to change another behavior and how useless that is because they don't want to. You can come and give Laura money. My girlfriend sent me here because she wants me to quit smoking. But if you don't want to quit smoking, guess what? You're not going to.
And this is why I don't work with kids anymore. I would have parents saying my kid is struggling with gymnastics or has this phobia about X, Y, and Z. And if the kid didn't want to do it, every week was a complete waste of time.
So the parents have decided the kind of kid they want, and then they don't have that kid. And so they bring him to you to sort it out.
It works 0% of the time.
One thing that also really caught me about that passage is the idea that the pain of a relationship is not really about the present. The present is annoying. It's annoying that you don't have somebody with you. It's annoying that you don't have someone to share your thoughts and feelings with. I think what you're really mourning is the past and the future because you have some good memories in the past because you wouldn't be there if you didn't. You're really mourning the future from little things like, oh, we have tickets to this music show we were going to go to together, to big things like we were going to get married, we were going to have kids, we were going to take trips, we were going to have adventures. I think that those future hopes are a trap. As Meredith Miller said, that hope is toxic.
You can't have hope when someone is not willing to accept any responsibility for their part.
When I was in therapy, my therapist identified my relationship as abusive, which you had done and everybody had done. I pointed it to a lot of the anger problems that this person had, but they kept trying and saying, I'm going to be on this medication. I'm going to see a therapist. I'm going to work through it. A turning point for me, although it didn't really click in until much later, was when my therapist said, I've worked with men with anger issues. And it takes a lot more than this. Just the fact that was being presented to me that he wasn't going to get better.
He wasn't going to get better in the timeline that you
in
needed.
any kind of timeline, right? That it was going to be years if he was going to be fit for anybody.
And I think that's sometimes hard. As women, we're sold a bill of goods that stand by your man and just be confident in him.
Screw you, Tammy Wynette. And she didn't stand by her man neither.
No, she didn't. We're told that if you're just kind and if you're patient, and give him a chance to figure it out, then eventually he'll get there. But when it comes to people with personality disorders, it's really hard to get there.
This is a clipping from an article, 8 Subtle Clues a Person is a Covert Narcissist by Vanessa Likeful. Covert and overt narcissists have the same core traits and triggers, but low self-esteem subdues the expression of their narcissistic characteristics, making covert narcissists harder to spot. When you meet a covert narcissist, we've talked about it before, how wild it is that it all comes from the same engine, because when you meet an overt narcissist, it's a lot easier to smell the BS. This person is centering themselves in every conversation. This person is constantly one-upping me. This person is constantly talking about how great they are. But a covert narcissist, you can be tricked and lulled into, oh, this person's just had a really bad time. This person has had some hard relationships. This person is traumatized, but it's the same thing. And it's the same energy draining that you get with both of them.
But it's in different packaging.
Yes. The exact causes of narcissism are complex and not fully understood. Yet, as Dr. Ramani, narcissism expert, explains, covert narcissists may also share tales of sadness, neglect, and even trauma that go back to childhood. They may have families of origin characterized by psychological abuse, unfeeling parents, experience with significant abandonment and trauma. Dr. Ramani comes up so much on this podcast. I feel that she is a silent third partner.
I wish she was, because I would love her feedback and also I would love her funding.
Dr. Ramani, if you ever want to be on My Sister's a Therapist, please know that we have hundreds of listeners. I had an amazing experience with a covert narc this week. I was having this conversation where she was switching between these two facets. She would say something mean to me, and then she would flip to covert and say, I can't believe you're doing this to me. All I've been through, you're so mean. But then she would flip again. And it felt like being on a real emotional roller coaster.
Because that's what they do. They're disruptors. I do feel like this has historically been the thing that pulls me in for these people, specifically men that I've dated. They all have this trauma history. And so I feel empathy for them and I want them to be happy and I want them to resolve their childhood stuff and I want to be supportive. They pull me in with this and then do the old switcheroo.
And that's what it's designed to do. That's what the whole act is designed to do, to pull you in and get your empathy or get your jealousy or whatever it is they're going to get. Rah!
Well, it's not really jealousy. They pull you in by looking for someone who is incredibly empathic because those are the only people who are going to tolerate their BS. So here are some of the signs of a covert narcissist. And I've experienced all of these.
Okay.
Shaming and belittling. What it might look like is that's not how I would have done that. My idea would have been more effective than your idea. Have you ever experienced that?
No,
Just me.
just you.
Hidden grandiose superiority. What that might look like is the party sounds fun, but I think I'm going to stay home. I don't really hang out with those kinds of people. You guys enjoy.
That sounds really stupid and childish, but I can see why you'd be into it.
You want to go to an improv show? I find it kind of pedantic and lame, but I can see why you might like it. Feelings of disregard towards others. So the sense that you are irrelevant. What that might look like is, sorry, it took me so long to get back to you. I have 10 minutes. You want to talk now?
This is something that I've been guilty of. It's the busyness excuse. I've become more aware of it. I think my training from my dad was that if you're busy, you're important. If you're important, everything else can be forgiven. If you're doing something for work, everything else is secondary. As an adult, I find that ridiculous. You can't come to my high school graduation because you have a business trip that's so important. It couldn't happen any other time than this.
But I think one of the messages that John Ryan gave us loud and clear is that we were irrelevant in his life.
We were something that had happened to him and that he had to tolerate to some degree. Okay, what's the next one?
Manipulation. Remember that one time I helped you? I'm such a good friend. I think you owe me one.
This is very familiar to me.
I've experienced it quite a bit.
Yeah.
That our relationship is transactional.
Yeah. I do this, you do that. The one thing I try to always do is I never do anything for anybody that I don't genuinely want to do, because then I never have to expect anything back. Right. I've done the thing that I wanted to do. If you ask me to do something and I don't want to do it, even if you promise to do something else, I'm pretty likely to say no.
My therapist used to call this the BS tax. You're going to do this cool thing for me, but I have to pay a BS tax. So it ends up costing me more than if you just hadn't done it at all. Gaslighting, this is a favorite. What that might sound like is, that's not what I said. You're remembering that wrong.
The thing about narcissistic gaslighting is everything will have their take on it. I have a relationship in my life where this person will tell me terrible things that have happened to them, horrible things that people have done to them, and it will sound so terrible. But if I wind up talking to the other person or anyone who knows them both, I will hear their part in it. Did they tell you that before that happened, they smashed a plate on a wall? Did they share that when they lost that job?
My hot dog.
Yeah, when they lost that job, it was because they were spitting on everybody's hot dogs. No, that's weird. That didn't come up.
That's the fun of gaslighting. And I think part of gaslighting is to make you feel uneasy in your stance, to make you doubt reality so that I can have more control over you as the narcissist. Self-deprecating superiority. I've experienced this, unfortunately.
I've never heard of this.
Gosh, my presentation today was the worst of all of them. Basically begging for others to give you some sort of praise. It's really gross and sad.
Well, I guess I'm the worst boss in the world.
I tried to make these cookies for you and they look really terrible.
The thing they're talking about is perfectly fine. They're like, you probably won't want to eat that. There's probably something wrong with it. There's something wrong with you.
Yeah, I remember I had sort of a disagreement with a friend. Looking back, probably had a personality disorder. But they said, we were going to a concert together and this venue had thousands of seats. And they said, well, I would hate for you to have to run into me and talk to me at this event because I'll probably just ruin it for you.
That's amazing.
It is. Emotionally inaccessible to others. I'm too busy to talk about this right now, and you're being too emotional.
Oh, that's a classic.
That's a John Ryan favorite.
Everybody
you're not crying anymore.
Right. Well, you made me cry, dude. I hope that everybody who's playing the John Ryan drinking game is not driving.
This one is one I have experienced an excessive amount. Hypersensitivity and an inability to receive criticism. That's absurd. I was the highest performing member last quarter. I don't deserve this treatment.
This is something that I definitely have experienced in myself, inability to take criticism. Once I figured out that not everything was about me and I didn't have to be perfect all the time, I got better at it. If you can never receive feedback, you're just going to get broken up with, fired, because you have no capacity to improve. You're just going to stay the same person because everyone knows you can't hear anything negative.
And the reason for that is it's sort of like you're an eggshell with the middle blown out. That's your ego, this very fragile thing. You try to wrap it up in moving blankets to make it secure, but ultimately it is incredibly fragile. You can't accept any criticism because you're barely holding on.
Here is the answer to the $10,000 question, which I think in today's money would probably be $500,000. Triggers for covert narcissists. Covert narcissists are triggered when they feel ignored, They feel ashamed. The attention is not on them. They feel inferior to others. Their ego or sense of self is questioned, or they have less of something than someone else. If you change covert to overt, I think this is the same list.
It is the same. Or if you change covert narcissist to toddler, it's the same list.
Right. And these behaviors are totally normal when it's a toddler.
Right. I totally expect a toddler to freak out when they feel ignored because they don't have emotional maturity.
To cry when they are asked to share a toy, to make noise when the attention is not on them. That's normal. The rest of us are supposed to develop past that.
We are, if we are raised by emotionally healthy people in a stable and consistent environment, we do that. When we're not, we end up getting trapped at a toddler mentality.
I wonder if I'll ever meet anyone who was raised in a caring and supportive environment.
I have met a few people in my life.
And they've got a glow about them. They don't need anything from you. Anything that they are engaging with you, they want to. It's quite dazzling.
In my entire lifetime, the number of people is in the single digits because all it takes to make a baby is for two people to have unprotected sex when one of them is ovulating. And that's it. What you end up with is a lot of really poor parenting because all these people did was have unprotected sex. You don't have to be mature or responsible or good to do that. Here are some tips for coping with a covert narcissist. Remember not to take anything they say or do personally. Consider what your values are and set boundaries to protect them. Create distance socially, mentally, and even physically from the narcissist. Speak with a mental health professional if your narcissist is your spouse. Become comfortable advocating for yourself.
The experience that I've just had really resonates with this list. The person who was communicating with me just kept trying to pick fights and would say a horrible thing that was not true. I would, of course, be inclined to defend myself, say, no, that isn't true. I was able to just say, no, I don't need to get engaged in this because what they want is for me to come down in the mud with them and really have just a big old slap fight.
And you got to just say, no, thanks. I'm full.
Thanks. I'm full of BS. I've already had my BS for the day. I had a great big bowl of it for lunch. For Carrie, there are going to be some things coming down the pike if you do decide to end this relationship. Here's some things that I picked off a list, 12 things that happen when you discard the narcissist first. And this is from the Narcissistic Life website. What happens when you discard a covert narcissist? When you discard a covert narcissist, they may exhibit intense emotions, including anger, resentment, and the desire for revenge. Their sense of control and superiority may be threatened, leading to manipulative behavior aimed at regaining power. How do narcissists feel when you dump them? When we end a relationship with a covert narcissist, they often experience a whirlwind of emotion. Feelings of rejection, loss of control, and a blow to their fragile egos can overwhelm them. They may react with anger, manipulation, and blame towards us. And that's just how they roll. The sense of abandonment triggers their insecurities, leading to vindictive behaviors as they struggle to cope with a breakup. It's important to set boundaries and prioritize your own well-being when dealing with their reactions. What I have learned, specifically when you break up with someone with narcissistic personality disorder, when they still think there's hope, when they still think there's a possibility that you'll be with them, they're all sweetness and light. But as soon as they see that the final die has been cast and they're being thrown out of the coop, that's when they start getting really nasty. And saying things like, I'm never going to speak with you again. Or slashing your tires. Yeah. Or showing up to your house in the middle of the night. Or calling your phone so many times in a night that you really think strongly about changing your number. When they talk about domestic violence, that's really the worst time in a relationship with someone who's mentally ill, specifically with a personality disorder. Because I think a lot of DV people are narcissists because they've been discarded. They can't tolerate it. And so they want revenge. Yeah. The most dangerous time for any woman in a relationship is when she's trying to leave. What are your final thoughts on this topic? Do you think we've helped Carrie at all? In general, I will say she just talked at the beginning of her letter about how the narcissism was not obvious at the beginning of the relationship. And no, it isn't. They've spent their whole life learning how to hide it. They know if they start on day one with you with the world is ending, the sky is falling, this thing on my finger is cancer, I need all of your love and attention, they won't get it. The way that my therapist used to describe it is you have to hold up this mask
And over time, it just gets heavier and heavier and it starts to slip.
Ooh, that is poetic. I was talking to a friend about the 7-year itch. And my new theory is it's not because men get sexually curious about other people at 7 years. It's because women can't keep up all the work that we're doing.
We are exhausted. And so we're not nice anymore.
It makes me sad that this person says they've been freed from this previous narc relationship only to land in another narc relationship. I think the answer is in the podcast, which is if your partner does not acknowledge the problem that they're having, then that's an easy answer. You have to cut your losses. And I'll also say to Carrie, you should seek individual therapy to help you recognize narcissists earlier and to help you understand why you keep winding up with this cluster of traits.
Phenotype.
Oh, that is a nice word. Phenotype is our word of the day, you guys. Laura, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts for Carrie are, I think that's true. She does need to be in individual therapy. I also feel like we can't really speak to whether your partner has covert narcissism or not because he's not here. I can say if you're noticing themes over and over again, if it feels like this relationship is doing more harm than good, then probably eventually you will have to leave. I remember I had a mentor who said, the person in your relationship is either complementing your life or complicating your life. And if you're finding that the person is complicating your life more than they're complementing, then you should probably leave.
And that seems so obvious, but I think it's so important and relevant. Every woman in our family has received the messaging, be in a relationship no matter what. Stay in a relationship no matter what.
And expect very little from your relationship. Expect that it's going to be full of drama and difficulty and tears.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of women are fed this line of BS that your relationships are about suffering and being the strong woman and standing by no matter what.
And having a bunch of kids and doing everything for them, making a life completely unaided. I think this idea that a relationship should improve your life, and I'm not talking financially, I'm talking about having an emotionally connected partner who receives from you, but also gives to you.
And it makes your life a little bit easier.
I think that's a pretty new idea for women.
So, Virginia, if anyone wants to find out more about your comedy, how would they go about doing that?
If they would like, my Instagram is BADINIA, Badinia. That is also my TikTok, and that is also my web presence. You can follow me on Peloton. That's my Peloton ID. Laura, where can people find you on the internet if they would like to learn more about this podcast or seek you out for professional help?
Well, they can find me at my website, lauraryan.org. I do not have a Peloton or Steam account, unfortunately. If they're interested in my TikTok, they can find me at I am Laura Ryan. If they want to find our show, we have our own website, mysistersatherapist.com, and we have an Instagram account, My Sister's a Therapist Instagram. And Virginia, if anyone wants to write us personal emails and send us great show ideas like Carrie did, how would they do that?
If you have a question or an idea for a show, you can write us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com. If you would like to be a sponsor on our podcast, we are reducing the list of companies that we will accept sponsorship from. They include Apple, Costco, Elf Beauty, Delta Airlines, American, United, and Southwest. These are all companies that continue to support DEI
programs.
And if you want to hire us to speak at your event, wedding, women's conference, triathlon, I was digging in my mind for triathlon and I kept thinking triceratops. I'm like, that's not right.
If you have a triceratops
Any kind of dinosaur. Any kind, we will show up.
We'll be there. If you are opening your own Jurassic Park, we'll be there.
We don't care if it's a bad idea. Laura, now is the time of the show where you sometimes read a review or an email or any kind of nice comment that people have sent us. Do you have one this week?
I do. And before I read it, I want to tell everyone who's listening that right now, I want you to forward this episode to 5 of your friends or family because we need to get the word out.
And if you don't want to forward this episode, you can forward a recent episode, Haterade, which has been getting a lot of traction.
You could also forward our most downloaded episode, #goals. This review is an Apple podcast review from Greta Betsy. It's a 5-star review. Download now. Thank me later. My sister's a therapist, has the ultimate blend of insight, humor, and heart. Every episode, I feel like I'm hanging out with my own family. If my family were way more funny and or had a master's degree in counseling. Laura and Virginia are absolutely fabulous. They tackle heavy topics with such grace and wit. It's a comedy show with a deep emotional core. I find myself laughing out loud and then getting in perspective, the best kind of roller coaster. If you're looking for a podcast that's going to make you feel all the feels and maybe even help you work through some stuff, this is it. The chemistry between these sisters/co-hosts is magical, like a warm hug from a wise, funny, slightly snarky therapist who just happens to be your sister. Trust me, you're going to love it. Thank you, Greta Betsy.
That's amazing, Greta. We appreciate you so much. If you want to receive accolades like Greta, you can write us a review on any platform that you like. Spotify will take them and we'll see them. Apple, obviously. Amazon, write us a positive review on Amazon. We will dig it and we will read it. Until next time, I want to leave you with the phrase that guides us, the immortal words of Billy Ray Valentine Capricorn, when he said, "We can make it, baby."
Me and you. Bye-bye.
Bye.